brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.
G'day and welcome to Change the Game, proudly brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters and Tropical Exposure, our all-new vodcast right here from the heart of Cutters country in the locker room. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Yuwi people of the Kulin Nation. And I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present and emerging. Look, it's just a fantastic thing to be able to have these social platforms where we can all talk and get some of our messages out. This will be the voice of the Cutters, and it's going to be a little bit of a voice of rugby league in Mackay as well, as we get a chance to talk to a lot of our past players and current players. With me today, we've got Craig Bogaarts from QCCS. He's instrumental in supporting rugby league in Mackay. He's the naming rights sponsor of the Cutters. Welcome along, Craig.
Thanks, Benno. Good to be here.
Awesome. And actually a very big part of supporting the team that got Change the Game as an initiative off the ground in the first place. So congratulations on that, to see what it's grown to today. And we're going to talk a lot about today what's happened with Change the Game. Mitch Cook, Operations Manager of the Cutters. Great to have you back. I first knew Mitch when he was here at around 2013 days when we won the comp. Absolutely killed it. He's been down the NRL in some high level roles down there. It's great to have you back with your experience, mate. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
Renae Kunst needs no introduction. She's captain of the Jillaroos. Amazing sports person, instrumental and a huge part of the fabric that makes up the Cutters and women's rugby league in Mackay as well. She's also a proud mum, so wears many hats, and as we know, that's one of the biggest jobs. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Good morning.
Excellent. Great to have you here. Look, Change the Game is the name of the show. Change the Game is also a mental health initiative and awareness program that's been fabricated by within the Cutters in a move to create awareness of mental health and helping people and also making people understand and making players and our community aware that it's something that we can talk about. And it's something that we're a lot more aware of now when obviously we were going through school and we were all playing sport, and that's a huge thing. Mitch, tell us, how does the Cutters support Change the Game, and how is Change the Game helping the Cutters?
Yeah, I think it's a credit to past administrations. Troy and Kelly in the past started this in 2016 and driven it in the last few years. And it's a platform to raise awareness. Number one, have the conversation, and also seek to support the best support that's needed for whoever needs it. And it's not only just players; it's people in the community. It's our staff as well. So it's really important, and we're tackling it head on. So
absolutely, and supporting it. And I mean, Craig, you got a massive successful business. You've employed thousands of people over the years. You currently got over 100 employees. You're a proud supporter of Change the Game. Tell us, what's your take on it as an initiative and how it helps us?
Well, the Change the Game program come around a few years ago. It was at the same time when QCCS decided to step up to be the naming rights and principal sponsor. And if we go back to that time, it was a time when there was a lot of financial issues in the local community. Mining industry was down. There was just a lot of financial hardship, and just more out of support for the community is where we come about to. Mackay's a rugby league town, so we decided to try and do our bit to help keep the club going, and also wanted to do something in the mental health space at that time. So it just seemed like a perfect match, perfect fit, and the people that kicked it off did a great job. There was counsellors involved, Ross G, those type of people, people within the club and business people outside the club that all put a lot of time, money and effort to help build this thing. And it takes time. And it's continuing to build momentum. And it's something I'm quite proud of in the background, just sitting back and just seeing it how it's evolving.
Well, and you should be very proud because it's without people like you, these things don't happen, and they need a foundation support, and it's obvious that we're heading in the right direction. Renee, you've played an enormous amount of high-level sport and seen the impacts of being in that, that around those types of people and the fast pace and the stress of performing and that sort of stuff. How do you think Change the Game is going to benefit our future players?
Oh, first and foremost, a huge congratulations to the Mackay Cutters on taking this initiative on a few years back. It's certainly leading the way in semi-professional sport, and being a proud local woman myself, to see the Cutters in a game that I love, genuinely caring about not only their performance on the field, but more so importantly, just as much off. It's great. It's certainly, mental health has seen such a huge awareness surrounding it in my years of playing back earlier days, where there wasn't sort of as much information and as much support around that to now. It's all a part of the fabric of playing at this level, that we've got these guys, these players checking in on their wellness daily, that they're talking more. So it's really important that we continue to portray that message to the broader community, and not only our players, about the importance of speaking and seeking help should we wish.
That's right, and it's that brilliant, knock-on effect, if you will, as you say, as the awareness is created, it trickles down into the community and the people associated with it. And, getting back to Change the Game as a platform, I think, obviously it's highlighting the importance of having the conversation and being able to speak and knowing that it's, and there's a lot of the multiple service providers have all got their own taglines and things like that. But the beauty of it is it's all about the conversation and talking, and it keeps coming back to that. Tell us, Mitch, where do you think that starts, or where should it start? And obviously, it needs to start from ourselves if we're noticing somebody's, not really feeling well.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's the first point where, how tight a team can get, from start of pre-season and go right through. And they're the ones that notice, subtle changes in friends and mates. And, it's great that we're creating the environment for these guys to be able to, and girls, to be able to, go to their friend and check in with them, and then have our club that's, driving this initiative and really open to helping them seek that support. So it's not something that just needs to be behind closed doors and players hiding to not have that conversation, or other players not wanting to check in with their mate. It's this environment created to make sure these things are happening when needed.
Yeah, and Craig, in a previous conversation, you and I have had, you had a brilliant analogy about how these days we are becoming more aware of mental health, and that, everyone has their ups and downs without generalising it, but you had a fantastic analogy about now we're learning more about what it is. Yeah, we are.
I run a concrete business, so I'm not a professional in the mental health space in any way, shape or form. But it was explained to me once before, there's Grapevine and various organisations that'll do like a mental health first aid, for a better word. And to me, that really resonated. When someone breaks their leg or, does a hamstring or some various thing, there's lots of people that can just come in and help and do those things, and no one feels any pressure or shame or anything like that. From my perspective, mental health is a similar thing. If you can, strap the leg, so to speak, and then call on those right organisations that can provide that professional help, then we can all get better. And no one judges about you break an arm, you tear a shoulder muscle, you do whatever. You just go, okay, well, we need to get this fixed. Same thing. I don't want to simplify it or make it simplistic, but from my perspective, it's a similar thing.
And Renee, it's obvious that, we're making progress. The best thing is, we're getting somewhere, and the awareness platforms and Change the Game, especially as a platform, is helping people. And do you think that's the case? Are we getting there?
Absolutely, Ben, and credit again to the Mackay Cutters. That we're informing our people on what is mental health. I know, it was only probably a couple of years ago myself where I sat in a state of mind workshop and actually learnt that we all actually have a level of mental health. It's where we sit on that continuum, and continuum, and it's understanding that all of us have those good and bad days, but if we're stuck, towards that yellow-red is where we need to sort of adopt some strategies around supporting either our friends or ourselves and how we get back to that good mental health. So, we saw it back when I was playing, it wasn't, as I mentioned earlier, there wasn't the awareness around mental health. In fact, we talk about that stigma surrounding where it wasn't spoken about. There wasn't the conversations being had. So it's certainly something that's come a long way. And again, to a game where I now work in, it's, our game, and Craig said it before, it's the game everyone loves here in Mackay. It is the sport of choice, and with that, we've got a responsibility as a game. We've got such a huge vehicle to drive some really good community conversations. And again, to the Cutters in driving this Change the Game initiative is only going to benefit not only our players in the community, but also our aspiring younger players and that ripple effect where it goes through schools as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very clever comment. And I think too, from my own personal opinion, it's breaking the stigma and that stigma associated with, we can talk about mental health as being an umbrella term for all sorts of things, where traditionally, my experience in media, and you'd always, in news stories or in communications, they'd want this categorical diagnosis, is that he's suffering from schizophrenia, or he's bipolar, or he might be suffering from, severe anxiety and depression and these boxes or categories, and then the individual that may be feeling the ill sides of mental health or being a bit down feels that, if I get diagnosed with this particular thing, that's the stigma attached, I'm now this. Whereas the conversations that we're starting and the awareness of mental health at the first entry point, or the start to talk about, before, if you need professional help, you can certainly seek it, but the conversation's got to start first. And do you think that's where we're going as far as starting the conversation?
Yeah, 100%. What I always think back to as well is, your support network. Everyone, has the different people that they lean on and, be able to check in with, or they check in with them. For me, I know when I do disconnect from my support network, they come check in on me, and that's great. That gets me back on track, and I think we're creating that here. We're a support network within the club, and when someone does see someone maybe a little down or disconnecting, we're able to check in with them and see if they're all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I sort of said previously in another conversation, I've personally been in a couple of situations where we've lost friends and work colleagues over the years from obviously people suffering from mental health. And I didn't feel as if maybe I was close enough or friends enough to start the conversation and talk to them. And now retrospectively, thanks to programs like Change the Game, I realise I was entirely close enough and entirely, friends enough to start, and I maybe could have had more impact in the outcomes there, which is, something I think that these are the great things coming forward. And Craig, you've obviously been in situations where you've seen co-workers, staff struggling with the outside of life.
Far more times than I care to remember, between family members and staff and friends, myself, various times. You got various pressures going on, mm-hmm. and it's how mentally fit are you? And I think that's probably where we need to twist that a little bit about mental health or mental fitness.
Yep. Because
that's about resilience. Professional sports people can run up and down the field all day, and I'll walk to the half line and I need a break. All right. The same thing can happen.
That's me too now.
That's all of us now.
But that's the same thing that can happen in a mental health space. Presidents and prime ministers and CEOs must have a huge, high threshold of mental resilience and mental fitness. And we're not all at the same level. We don't all have to be at the same level. I will never win Olympic gold, and I'm okay with that. But if I need a hand with something, then you call on people to help you through those processes to build that resilience. The other thing, Benno, is we're in a very different world now. The chatter doesn't stop. Our kids are in a world where there's social media and Instagram this and all these platforms. To be honest, I don't know a lot about, and I'm kind of glad I don't. our company has a Facebook page, and that's about the extent of my what do you call it?
Social
IT
media.
awareness. And it's only because it pops up on, if I click this button, it pops up and I have a read. I would hate to be in an environment, professional sportsman, even at a very lower level where, everyone's looking.
Consistently judged and
judging
reviewed
and pushing
yeah.
Now, if that's the way the world is, that's okay. But what we need to do is build the support system, build the resilience to help deal with that. And like you said, Mitch, if you've got a family group that checks in with you when you're not, being your normal jovial self, then we can do that for each other as well. And it's just like you said, a tap on the shoulder. Say, you're doing all right, bud, and we're a country that says she'll be right.
That's right.
But I don't think she'll be right is good enough anymore.
It's not, and that's
it's a bit more than that.
A really clever analogy too, because we talk about, how's your mental fitness. Mental fitness can be improved with coaching and training, just like other fitness, and whether that's small lifestyle changes that could be part of your training program, and that's the big thing for me. I find obviously my big release is playing in the band, and I know over the years when I haven't had the band in my life, or if I'm not training enough, I love going to the gym, I love playing music. If those two things are removed from my life, I really feel the extra pressure because I don't have those little reactors or little catalysts which are part of my mental fitness training.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really, really clever. And I think, Renee, you touched on it before, and it's a great statement. The initiative of Change the Game is a tool in that toolbox of your mental fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting the information, being informed, and then how the game goes about adopting some strategies to put in place of, if someone is struggling, what are we doing? Encouraging them to ask the questions, ask your mates, get around them. To Craig's point, identifying issues where these people and they're, whether they're disengaged in something that they've loved before, or that they're not wanting to be a part of communities where they've necessarily been a part of before. So it's identifying those key changes in people that might be different to what they normally are, and asking them if they're okay. And we've got to be okay with asking people how they are and how they're going, and having that better connect with our people.
Oh, it's simple as that. And I think we're learning more about how to support, and how we can support. And as I say, I meant that from the bottom of my heart. I think about it, I'd say, on a monthly basis, sometimes weekly basis, when I get these little triggers of, especially my time in the media industry, where I've lost what turned out we're really good friends, and I have that resentment upon myself for not starting the conversation. And obviously these support links in the chain are where we're heading. So it's a fantastic initiative, and one of many. The Cutters have put this in place, obviously with a very community focus, really, because with your players, we're supporting players, but it's the players' parents, it's brothers, it's cousins, it's friends. That's which becomes our greater community. So good on the Cutters for changing the game.
Yeah, I think it's the care factor too. Like,
absolutely,
we really care about our people, and we don't want people going through things without the support that they deserve to get. It's caring first and foremost.
Well, yeah. And just going back, big weekend of footy. You want to talk about some happy life triggers. I think winning 64-0. That's a pretty good summer you can go home happy with. And A-grade looking good too. How did you see the games play out for you, Cookie?
Yeah, they were good hit-outs. Townsville definitely really strong. They brought the best, so they're going to be competitive throughout the year. But I think, we will as well. So some, especially ISC, Interest Super Cup team, played really well. Love to get that win. The women's team, Harvey Norman under 19s, 62-0. They did great. So
bit of history made on the weekend with the first ever Cutters female team. So that's history in the making. It's pretty exciting.
Renee presented the jerseys to the girls, so it's great for them as well, and good connection.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, and a shout out to my niece, Jess Doring, rampaging Jess. She's the daughter of Linda the Terminator Hamilton, Mackay Meteorette, and my wonderful sister-in-law, and we should be very proud to have a team that strong. And Craig, you've got the big, strong QCCS brand on a big, strong team. You're looking forward to a big season?
Oh, for sure. I enjoy the season no matter where whether it's 2013 or last year or the year before, I should say.
Yep.
I'm probably the worst person to watch a game with. Anyone that sits in our box and watches a game with me, I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm not interested. I just want to watch the game. And I really enjoy that. And, whether we win or lose, it's just, a bit of a cliche how we play the game, but it's kind of how we show up is what excites me more than anything.
Absolutely. I was talking to Coach Corley this morning, and the enthusiasm and the smile on his face, I think we just got a great year ahead of us. And Renee, what I want to go back to too is, it's a very special thing to see the women's game progressing at the rate it's progressing. And, how do you feel when you look back at when people asked you, I play rugby league, and now it's just everybody understands that our women's teams are the future, it's fantastic.
Absolutely, and I think it just comes back to that big inclusive. Our game is so inclusive, it's one of the NRL's key pillars, and, they're living by that value. There's a pathway for a female as there is in the male space now, and that's, since the inception this year of those different pathway offerings. So if you're a young female player, you have the same opportunity and pathways as you do as a male, and that's not prevalent in too many other sports. So we're certainly leading the way there with it, and Mackay, locally to Mackay, just the interest in the game in Mackay, and it's great to be able to see all these younger sisters and cousins who are now a part of what their brothers have always played. It's wonderful.
Completely brilliant, and it goes back to the point we were making before too, because it is our community, and even though it starts at football, you've got these associations, and legacy families that have been great. We've got Australian representatives, we've got Origin representatives, we've got, and now there's pathways for everybody, whether it's our juniors coming through with a chance to play at the Cutters, and a chance to maybe make NRL. We've actually got a landing page now, and for our young women, talented women playing rugby league at club level, they've got a chance to now represent Mackay and play for the Cutters, and possibly represent Australia, represent your state, represent Australia, and these are the pathways that have been put in place that are just as important as change the game. Just as change the game, it's just as important as our football. We're getting a lot of glue as a club and as a culture, and I think the Cutters should be very, very proud. So thank you very much for coming along today, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
You'll see Craig and Renee many times throughout the year as guests on the show. Cookie, thanks very much. Keep up the good work. Killing it.
Thanks, mate.
He's have been instrumental in getting this podcast going, and I think it's fantastic that we've got a voice for the Cutters, and we can hear some great stories from people over the years and keep you up to date. So thanks for joining us on Change the Game, proudly brought to you by the QCCS, Mackay Cutters and Tropical Exposure. We'll see you next week.
Thanks guys.
Change the Game, proudly brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.